Hello and welcome back to the Mistress of the Macabre podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Tierra, and we are diving into part 2 of Killer Fashion and Beauty, Scarves. Anything dangling from the neck has the devastating potential to cause peril. On the evening of September 14th, 1927, in Nice on the French Riviera, the famous American dancer Isadora Duncan climbed into the passenger seat of a sports car. As the car was driving, she wrapped her signature long red silk shawl around her neck twice and flung it over her left shoulder with her habitual drama, exclaiming, quote, "Goodbye, my friends, I'm off to glory," end quote. A goodbye in French that is a final farewell, and moments later, she was dead, strangled by her shawl. The seats of the low, open sports car were dangerously close to its spoked wheels. The passenger seat on the left was set slightly back. The dancer's gesture allowed the shawl's fringes to, quote, slide between the left rear mudguard and the car body, then entwine themselves between the disc brake and the wheel's spokes, end quote. The shawl then wrapped around the axle and pulled her toward the car's rear wheel, snapping Duncan's neck as it sped along the Promenade des Anglais. By some accounts, she was dragged and smashed against the pavement. It was a grisly and almost instantaneous death. According to eyewitness accounts, quote, "The strangulation was so swift and powerful that although sobbing friends frantically cut and tore the thick silk from about the wheel to liberate her torn flesh, she was already dead," end quote. Her blood dripping on the car's running board from a wound in her neck. The cover story in the New York Times reporting the accident said, quote, "Affecting, as was her habit, an unusual costume, Miss Duncan was wearing an immense iridescent silk scarf wrapped about her neck," end quote. No matter how unusual, eccentric, and controversial her costume choices were in life and death, the reality of Duncan's accident was truly horrific. A fragment of her shawl is preserved in the Bibliothèque Nationale de France. It may have been collected when she died by Georges Morvert, a journalist and friend whose name also appears on the envelope, which is inscribed, quote, "Isadora's shawl at the moment of her death," end quote. It rests in a plastic pocket next to an equally disturbing memento, a lock of her 3-year-old son's hair. Patrick had drowned along with his 6-year-old sister, Deidre, in a car accident in 1913 when the car they were in rolled into the Seine River. It is not the only relic that remains of this fashion martyr. Pieces of the celebrated dancer's garment were sought after by friends and admirers alike, including her adopted daughter, Irma, who owned some fringe that she had clipped from the shawl and kept in an envelope with a black-lined funeral announcement marked with the letter D.